Hello loves and welcome to today's video. My Net Galley score has dropped below an 80% ratio, which means I have some arcs I need to read. So today I'm going to be taking you along with me as I read some of the anticipated fall releases that I've been approved for arcs of. And the one I'm going to be starting with today is The Gallery Assistant by Kate Belly. This is about someone who works as a gallery assistant when one of the gallery's clients is murdered and she has no memory of the night it happened. She is embroiled in the scandal of figuring out what happened, who murdered this artist. So let's get started. Okay, I am about halfway through The Gallery Assistant. I'm at 48%. Our main character, Chloe, is the assistant at a gallery. She's helping put together this exhibition on this new artist that the gallery just acquired as a client. Then that artist turns up dead after a party where she doesn't remember how she got home. So she's kinda suspicious to the police for that. Then also her boss is let go and is now missing too. And she has also found these like coded messages in the paintings of the artist, and she thinks something deeper is going on. All of this is the main things going on. But also they keep mentioning things about 9/11 because this book takes place in November of 2001 in New York, and like I think they're implying that she was in one of the towers. There's been references to like conspiracy theories about the government having done it, and I'm pretty confused at this point as to what the fuck that has to do with everything else. And it just seems really tonally different to be like, oh yeah, there's this coded message in the painting. Did you know that Bush planned 9/11 and that the Office of Foreign Asset Control was in on it? What is happening? I'm a little concerned as to where this is going. Are we going full-blown 9/11 conspiracy theory in this mystery novel? Cause I would like to know. So at this point, this is going to have to pull out a really good ending to get some high ratings for me, cause I am not enjoying the random references to 9/11. So I'm just really fucking confused about this book. She has like these friends who, one is her roommate, supposedly she trusts these people, but like not enough to tell them what's going on. But then also those people who are supposedly her friends are all gaslighting her, and the only person who's not gaslighting her is the like random coffee guy that probably has a crush on her. She won't go to the frickin' police. Girl, you are being investigated by the police. Your employer's paying for a lawyer for you. Pick up the damn phone and call your lawyer and say like, hey, I think it's a little weird that this, and this. Do you think any of that helps my defense? Work with your lawyer. Also, 9/11 stuff, 73% of the way in. Just got her whole backstory as to what happened to her on that day. Still don't know what relevance that has to the rest of the plot. This is gonna have to bring it home in such a hard way to explain to me why any of that was necessary and why any of this is relevant in a book published in 2025. If this had been a story published in like 2002, 2003, maybe. But I'm confused why this is relevant in 2025. Are people nostalgic for that era? Is that a thing people want? Okay, I'm probably gonna save my rating for like the very end of the video and rate all of them at the same time, but what the fuck was that? If you told me that you had a book that was about an artist being murdered, the very first motive I would have thought of is the exact motive that was in this book. And the 9/11 stuff seemed like a way to not come up with proper motivations for the majority of the character's actions. It was used to explain the drinking problem of the main character, her PTSD. It was used as part of the motivation as to why the person came clean about something. I don't get the point of including it in there, and I did read in the acknowledgements that this author was in New York at the time, and they remember that time being such a time of paranoia and conspiracies going around, and what if while all those like fake conspiracies were going around, you also got involved in a real conspiracy. And I'm like, cool. Sure, I didn't get that from the text though. That was not a theme that I saw was apparent, and maybe it's because I didn't fucking live in New York at the time, didn't even live in the United States at the time, completely different country. The actual plot of this book was the most predictable thing I ever would have thought. Like, this is probably going to be one of my lowest rated books of the year at this point, because I just, whew. I also got a little worried that the epilogue was going to give me a like, and they all lived happily ever after and pregnant. I had a little mini panic about that at the end, because that would have been wild for this mystery thriller book to end that way. But let's move on to Slash Beauties by A. Rushby. So I'm at about 40% of Slash Beauties, and I think I've read enough to get the point of it, but I think it's about to kick off in a big way soon, so I wanted to do like prelim thoughts now. Slash Beauties is about this woman who works in like the art world procuring items for people, and one of the items that she herself has been searching for is this anatomical Venus. I don't know what an anatomical Venus is. It's like a wax figure people used to study anatomy, and they decided to make them like using women of the night as models to make them enticing to medical students to want to look at them. So the main character's been trying to track down this one. She finally gets access to it. She is planning to destroy it because there is this myth about these particular set of 3 anatomical Venuses, that there is a curse placed upon them and they have to be destroyed with magic. That is every other chapter. And then on alternate chapters, we are from the perspective of Eleanor, who is one of the women that these anatomical Venuses are based upon. She ran away from home to be with this guy, and then he dumps her after getting laid. So she ends up meeting this other woman in the park and basically being recruited to this brothel. We are getting her like entry into the world of sex work under Elizabeth, and working also with Emily, and those are the 3 anatomical Venuses. So the assumption is that at some point these 3 women are going to model for these wax figures, and somehow it's going to connect back to the main storyline. So far, this has been less horror and more historical fiction, because we really are only just getting this POV of this woman entering sex work because she was desperate in the 1780s, I want to say, around there, and then getting these glimpses back to the current timeline of this person looking at these artifacts and giving us the backstory and history of it. So far, very historical fiction. Not a lot of horror yet, but there have been references to magic, to witches, so I'm hoping we will get into that soon. I'm getting the feeling that we're about to lead up to that, so that's why I wanted to do this update now. I'm enjoying it so far, but I'm hoping that that body horror that I was promised in the description starts paying off soon, because while I'm enjoying it as a historical fiction, that's not what the description promised me. So I will continue reading and let you know soon. I finished Slash Beauties last night and I did enjoy it. It's not a new 5-star. I'll do my ratings again at the very end. I'm so worried for the release of this book because it is being mismarketed, in my opinion. It is being marketed as a body horror feminist novel where the wax figures go out and kill people. That does happen, but only in the last 15% of the book, maybe 20% of the book. The first 80% of it is a historical fiction novel. And was that historical fiction aspect well written and interesting? Yes, but there was not an ounce of any of the body horror until that last 20%. And even then, it was not like the substance level body horror. It was like someone did an autopsy level body horror. It was not as grotesque as I was expecting based on how it's being marketed. I think that if this had been marketed a bit more on the historical fiction fantasy, it would have been better. I think this is more similar in genre to The Warm Hands of Ghosts than it is to, again, the substance, just because that's the first kind of body horror that leaps into my brain. To recap again, this is about Alice, who's in the modern day, and she finally gets to acquire the final of these 3 wax figures that she has been trying to get at. And these 3 are based on women from like the 1780s, 1760s, somewhere around there. We then also get the perspective of one of these 3 women who is basically tricked into working for a brothel, basically, because she is now indebted to the madam who runs the house, but the house is running out of money very rapidly. You are getting the history of how this woman Eleanor and then the other 2 women at the brothel, Emily and Elizabeth, end up becoming models for the wax figures and all the despicable things that men would do to them. And also getting, in the present day, Alice being like, okay, now that I've tracked down the last of these figures, I can destroy them so that their magical spell is broken. So you're trying to like piece together how we went from ladies of the night being models to a friggin' curse. And I do think that was interesting. They could have expanded a bit more on the magic system, but again, marketed as body horror, and I think it is going to be picked up by the wrong audience, and that's going to impact its rating. So I still recommend it if you want a historical fiction about how men wrong women in the past. Me, who was really enjoying the books about the 6 Tudor queens and how Henry VIII was an asshole, you like that kind of story, I think this is good for you. If you're going into it looking for like a splatterpunk, really grotesque body horror, you're not gonna find that here. I forgot to film a transition. After Slash Beauties, I'm gonna read Hot Wax by ML Rio. Now finished part 2 of Hot Wax, which is about 50% of the way through. I am a little bit conflicted about this so far. So we have 2 timelines, 3 kind of POVs going on. So this is about our main character, Suzanne, whose father was in a rock band when she was growing up, and one summer she got to go on tour with him. That's POV number 1. Decades later, her father dies, and she inherits his car, and she basically leaves her entire life in the suburbs behind to drive around the country in this car, but she's like clearly running away from something. And then you also get the POV of her husband, who's like following the clues to try and find her. I am finding the parts of the book about her childhood really interesting. I like that rock star lifestyle through the eyes of a child POV. I like how much she is nostalgic for and loves old music. I'm really enjoying those POVs, those sections of it. I'm like on the fence about her POV in the current day. Some of it's interesting, some of it tends to drag a little bit, which it is the bulk of the POVs, so I'm kind of about that so far. I hate the husband's POV. Don't see the point to it quite yet. I'm not enjoying it because it is kind of just rehashing the same places we already visited through Suzanne's eyes, but with less substance because he's just trying to track her down. And the book keeps hinting to some kind of catastrophic event, which is why Suzanne's father lost custody of her and that she hadn't seen him in years. Not quite sure what that event will be yet. It's like it wants to imply it's something like satanic, something violent, something devilish. But the way it's hinting at it is making me feel like that's a red herring, and it's actually just going to be one of the band members having some questionable taste in romantic partners. I'm going to continue it. It's not a DNF at this point because I am curious as to what this event was that caused all this drama, but I do kind of wish I could skip through some of the POVs because they're not quite as interesting. So that's my halfway update. I will let you know my final thoughts when I'm done. I finished Hot Wax last night. Too late to film an update, but I did finish Hot Wax. So this book was not what I thought it was going to be, which seems to be a little bit of a theme of this video. The back of it says A Breakneck Ride to Hell and Back, and I took that literally. That's on me. It was not literal hell. It was not literal demons or anything like that. This is the story of Suzanne, whose father was like a wannabe rock star, and one summer she goes on tour with them. So you get the snapshots of her summer on tour. After that tour, she did not talk to her dad for like 20 years. So you also get 20, 30 years later where she is having to deal with the fact that her dad has now passed away and is kind of reflecting on her life and how it's not where she wants it to be. But the weird part for me were the sections where we got the POVs of her husband, because that seemed not necessary. We could have gotten the intent of the story without him needing to be a POV. Maybe I just didn't want to be in the POV of a man, especially that gross one. He was the worst. I'm still figuring out how I feel about this at the moment, because it was not the book I wanted. I did not get out of this the story I thought I was going to get out of it and the story I wanted out of it, but I did enjoy it, I think. So I'm kind of parsing out whether what I didn't like was because I didn't like it objectively or because it was not what I thought it was going to be. So like, would have loved there to be actual satanic elements in here, an actual ride to literal hell, absolutely. But I do think that the story that it did tell was interesting, especially the like POV of her being a child. I was so drawn into all of that sometimes when we would go back to the like later timeline, the 2018 timeline, I'm like, I want little girl Suzanne, I don't want adult Suzanne. I do think this is a good book if you're going into it with the realistic expectations as to what it is about. If you want a story of like a very close father-daughter relationship when the daughter's a child, that kind of drifts apart when they're adults, and has kind of a big traumatic event that caused that drifting apart. I was absolutely wrapped with all of the tour and the band stuff that was going on. The stuff with the husband seemed like too many slices, you know? Too much going on in this novel. So I did enjoy it, and we'll have to get the compile system out to see how much I liked it. I have worked out my ratings for all three of the books, and I'm gonna go over them with you from my least favorite to my favorite. My least favorite, I think it's pretty obvious, was The Gallery Assistant. I still not comprehending who this book is for. Who in 2025 is like, I need a very obvious mystery thriller where the main character survived 9/11. Don't understand who this book is for. The mystery was very predictable. All of the characters were monsters. Awful. Hated everyone. And then 9/11 was slapped on top of everything. And I get what the author was saying in the acknowledgements about wanting to write a book about a character who was like involved in a conspiracy while conspiracy theories were going on. But I don't think that the conspiracy was very well written and relied on just people fucking gaslighting the main character the whole time. So I didn't enjoy that book. It got a 2.25. It's my least favorite of this stack. Slash Beauties and Hot Wax were like neck and neck. And they did end up averaging to the same rating of a 4.25. But surprisingly, Hot Wax came out on top of Slash Beauties. So Slash Beauties got a 4.25. I did enjoy it for it being a historical fiction, but I was promised a feminist body horror, and some of the pacing got really slow at times. So you start out with some of the chapters being like, oh, they're like 20 pages long, that's fine. And then at one point, one of the chapters is like 60 pages long. I'm like, whoa. The way that it was broken up was a little weird. I feel like I didn't get enough of an exploration of the magic system for it to be a horror novel for me. As a historical fiction novel, pretty interesting. As a feminist body horror, Not going to be my fave, so I got a 4.25. Makes my favorite of this stack Hot Wax, because boy, this got me by the end. I love a like strong daughter-dad relationship, which this has. I enjoy books that are about like rock bands trying to make it big. Like, that's something that I have definitely read and enjoyed in the past. Still don't like the POVs of the man. I did by the end kind of get why they were there. I still don't think they were strictly necessary, but I get what the intention was. The twist that happens, the like big blow up as to why she doesn't talk to her dad, like, I was flabbergasted. Like, I dropped my jaw reading that. Oh my god. I did really enjoy the parallels that this book made between like the experience of her dad and her experience at the end. I can't say more than that because it's spoilers, but it does kind of leave this ambiguous ending as to who was responsible for the events that happened. She seems to blame herself, which, like, if you read it, she's definitely not at fucking fault for this. So while I didn't get the satanic panic literal hell that I wanted, I did end up enjoying this and did end up getting the ending that felt satisfactory to me. So, could I have trimmed a little bit off of it? Yeah, but overall, I had a really good experience with this, so this would be my favorite of the 3 arcs that I read in this video. If you made it to the end of this video, let me know in the comments down below what fall releases you are looking forward to, or leave, if there's a record, leave a record. If there's crayons, leave a crayon. I don't know, hopefully one of those two. If you enjoyed, like and consider subscribing so you don't miss any of my future videos. There are links in the description to my Goodreads and my Instagram if you want some previews on what I'm reading. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.